NFL Network proudly presents America's Game, a countdown of the 20 greatest Super Bowl champions. And now, number 17. The San Francisco 49ers were the team of the 1980s. But with a new decade came the rise of a new dynasty, the Dallas Cowboys.
And Aikman handoff, Smith coming left. Johnston got the block, and Smith will easily stroll in. Touchdown, Cowboys.
We'd been run over by the Cowboys 2 years in a row. 92, we were the big dogs, had been that way for a long time. And they beat us, and they kind of embarrassed us at our own place. The 93, we went down to Dallas and got beat up pretty bad.
So a pretty substantial beating. It may have been tasteless and tacky, but the fact of the matter is they said they were going to do it, but they delivered.
NFL Films, tell them what you're doing to Jerry Rice. You ain't doing nothing. I own Jerry Rice. I own Jerry. Own him.
I remember my NFC Championship losses probably more than I remember the wins because it hurt so bad.
We were in a kind of a humiliated state. We were like, hey, look, despite the fact we've had MVP years and all this stuff, we were getting run over by the same team.
Be the ball, baby.
And so, 94, we were really focusing on one goal, and that was to equip our team to be able to beat the Dallas Cowboys.
The blueprint for beating Dallas began with blue-chip players. There were 27 new faces on the 1994 roster, including all-pro cornerback Deion Sanders and linebacker Ken Norton. The 49ers took Norton from the Cowboys. That evened the score for the Cowboys taking Charles Haley from the 49ers 3 years earlier.
It was as if we nicked you back. It's just us two. There's no one else in the league. There's no other teams that are really playing for the championship. It's just us two. And so Charles Haley goes, and we finally got you nicked back. We added Deion and we got Ken Norton. So all of a sudden, emotionally, we like, hey, all right, we're in a fight. So we had a little counterpunch.
Those players came in basically 1 and 2 year deals, and they understood that if we do not get it done this year, this organization is going to blow itself up.
+3.
With new players came a new attitude. The corporate, all-business 49ers now had a funky strut.
It's a very interesting dynamic. If we're going to play as if our job's on the line, because quite frankly they are, we might as well have as much fun as possible. Stay as loose as possible and do not let the weight of what we're trying to accomplish get in the way of us playing our best football. And for that team, especially with young players like William Floyd and Ricky Watters, you couldn't apply the traditional corporate 49ers to those players. It wouldn't have worked. And to George Seifert's credit, he basically threw out the formula in which he's been a part of in winning 4 Super Bowls with the 49ers and said, hey, I'm willing to trust you and let you take control of this thing.
I'm young, I'm pretty, and can't possibly be beat.
Just a phenomenal job on George Seifert's part in letting us be us.
Now, this is what we should.
So now all of a sudden we had guys trash talking. It was different than what we were used to, but I think at the time, probably a good thing.
The new look 49ers scored a franchise record 505 points in 1994. They won the Western Division title for the third consecutive year. But they knew their season would be defined by just one thing, and that was ending the Cowboys' reign atop the NFC.
That season really was about getting ready to play the Cowboys in championship game in January and going to the Super Bowl. That was the only reason we showed up in training camp. It wasn't to play the Falcons. It wasn't to play the Saints. It was to play the Cowboys in January.
Brent Jones is a Bay Area native. He was born in San Jose and attended Santa Clara. He didn't grow up a 49ers fan because in those days, the 49ers were a team no one could love. From 1973 through 1981, the 49ers had just one winning season.
I remember my parents got a 49er jacket for my brother, and my mom tried to get him to wear it to school, and he cried. And she said, "Why don't you want to wear your 49er jacket?" And he said, "Because they're losers." And that was it. That was what I grew up around, in the 49ers. And then all of a sudden, in 81, they won the Super Bowl championship. In 84, they came back and did it again. So by the time I joined the 49ers in 87, there was an expectation that this was a win it all or don't even show up.
Jones was signed by the 49ers as a free agent. In 1987, he went to training camp as a backup to Pro Bowl tight end Russ Francis.
When I came to camp the next year, I was so excited because Tom Rathman was one of my good buddies, and we had it all set up. We were going to room together. 2 days before camp, Mike Holmgren called me and he said, "You're going to room with Steve Young." And I said, "Coach, no, you don't understand. I've got this all set up. Tom Rathman's my roommate." And he said, "No, you're going to room with Steve Young." I said, "Coach, no, me and Rathman, we have it all figured out. I'm bringing the refrigerator, he's bringing the TV." And he said, "I don't think you get it. I'm telling you, you are rooming with Steve Young." And we got to know each other over the next couple weeks. I was a guy that wanted to become a starter. And obviously he did as well, but he was behind Hall of Fame quarterback and just kind of sitting there biding his time. And we really started talking about, kind of hopes and dreams. It was almost like two 10-year-olds sitting around on their bed, laying around in between practices tired. "Hey, yeah, we're going to be great one day."
The man in front of Young was already great. Joe Montana was an icon in San Francisco when Young arrived in 1987. But over the next 6 years, their competition for the starting job drove them further and further apart. When injuries sidelined Montana in 1991 and 92, Young stepped in and led the league in passing. In 1993, the 49ers made the choice that Young would be their quarterback, and they traded the 37-year-old Montana to Kansas City. Montana still believed he was the better quarterback, and 1 year later, he would get his chance to prove it. It was week 2 of the 1994 season, but the emotions of the first Joe Montana versus Steve Young showdown were obvious, even in pregame warm-ups.
I still can't believe they just didn't go shake hands and act like big boys, but they're two great competitors, and I'm sure that Steve looked at Joe to see if Joe was acknowledging him, and I'm sure at the time Joe wasn't, and so Steve didn't want to take that first step and go over there. I guess to Steve, Joe was saying, "Hey, game on."
Joe Montana had played in many big games, but this one had special meaning. He was playing against a team he led to 4 world championships, and against the man who replaced him. When Montana performed his magic on the 49ers, the cheering wasn't limited to Kansas City. In the Bay Area sports bars, fans made it clear that Montana was still their favorite son.
Joe had won 4 Super Bowls. And when you win a Super Bowl, you get emotionally cemented with the people in the town. So when we went in 94, we'd been beaten by the Cowboys twice in championship games. I hadn't won a Super Bowl. Joe had won 4. He got traded to Kansas City. Emotionally, I think there's a lot of people in the Bay Area, it's like, they went with him.
You can't beat Joe, baby! You can't beat Joe!
For San Francisco, 4 of the 5 starters on the offensive line were sidelined by injury. Steve Young had no protection and no chance. It was a painful loss, especially for Steve Young, who was once again eclipsed by the legend of Joe Montana.
I felt a sense of sadness for Steve because he had to tolerate the questions of, well, you couldn't beat Joe in Kansas City. You couldn't do this, you can't do that. Who needs that type of negativity?
Felt like I was the apprentice that learned. He was the master, and we've both kind of gone on and played some great football. But in the end, there are some comparisons, and I've got to fight on with that too, because that's a heck of a thing. He's in many ways one of the greatest as far as winning Super Bowls, 4, and I got to get there yet. It's tough to constantly have that going on, but that's kind of par for the course.
The truth was, nothing was going to change in my life substantially. And I learned this because I won the MVP twice. Nothing's going to change it until you win the Super Bowl. That was the way it was. It was the way Joe built it. They'd had 4 of them, and we needed one. And I needed one. Without a Super Bowl, we like you. You can hang around, but we don't love you, and we don't want you to stay too long.
Steve Young was bruised and battered through the first month of the 1994 season. The 49ers were 3-1, but Young was sacked a dozen times in those 4 games. The problems on the offensive line reached a crisis point in Week 5 against Philadelphia. The Eagles embarrassed the 49ers by opening a 23-0 first-half lead. In the third quarter, with the game out of reach and Young being slammed to the turf on every play, Coach George Seifert changed quarterbacks in the middle of a series.
And Gerback is going in the game for Steve Young right now. How about that?
I don't know. I bet you Steve doesn't like it.
I think his coach is getting worried about him, and with the score 33-8, the way he's getting hit, who can blame him?
I felt like he was saying, yeah, everyone got beat up, but it's your fault. And I thought, for me, for all the crap that I'd been through for all those years, and you're going to trot the quarterback out to replace me, then trot out, J.J. Stokes to take Jerry's place. I mean, trot someone else out with him. But me, I think I just basically broke. And I went out to the sidelines, and I was looking for a fist fight. I wasn't going to just have an argument. I was looking to have a fist fight. And I was going to have it with George Seifert. So I started saying things and emoting things that I'm surprised that he didn't turn around and fight me. If I were him, I would have turned around and fought me.
I've never seen him like this. I mean, everyone is trying to calm him down, and he's just not buying it.
It was obvious to me I should take him out of the ballgame. If I didn't handle it to everybody's liking, it's because I don't have a lot of experience in this situation. And I sure hope to hell that I don't gain any.
You don't want to hear rational explanations. You don't want to hear, and especially one, we're afraid for you. Well, I don't want to hear that. I would much rather beat myself to a pulp trying to get back into that game than say, well, let's go to next week.
Watch Steve Young here. He's saying to Brent Jones, he said, do you believe that?
After the game, I remember talking to him. I said, bro, what's your problem? Hey, you're trying to make it about me. He's still fired up. It's just, and finally the next day he semi-calmed down. But really, it kind of galvanized the guys behind Steve. There was a lot of guys that said, hey, wait a second. This guy's got some fight to him. I like that guy. I want a guy that's not afraid to tell George Seifert to jump in the lake.
The funny thing about the whole event, from my teammate standpoint, was suddenly I was this fiery leader. And I wanted to go home and throw up and think about, are you kidding me? For all these years I've been out here battling and I had to yell at my coach and now you're like ready to follow me? But it taught me the vital lesson of football. Perception is reality. If you're perceived to be something, you might as well be it because that's the truth in people's minds.
The following week we were in Detroit, and if anything was going to give us a wake-up call, it was the Philadelphia game. We started that Detroit game every bit as miserably as we started the Philadelphia game.
The Lions and Barry Sanders jumped to a quick 14-0 lead. That put the pressure on Steve Young and a reeling 49ers offense.
I remember it being one of the tougher games I ever played. And I had left 4 or 5 pounds of flesh in Kansas City already 3 weeks before.
Look out. Young throws under great pressure. This time he gets hit.
And Young's hurt a little bit.
Man alive.
I have a vivid memory of Steve crawling across the carpet. He could barely get up, he could barely move, and I remember looking up at the scoreboard and going, where is this season going? This is the super team. We're a Super Bowl team. Is it all collapsing?
Where the Philadelphia game was a watershed event emotionally, Detroit game was a culmination of rising up out of that and saying, we'll do what we need to do, even if it means crawling back on the field, get bandaged up, and getting back out there.
Young had a pinched nerve in his leg. But he returned to the game and began beating the Detroit Blitz with short passes to the backs and Brent Jones. 2 touchdowns by rookie William Floyd put the 49ers ahead in the third quarter as they scored 27 unanswered points.
The Detroit game saved our season. Coming back in that game and getting us going again on the field, not yelling at the coach or what the media was saying or locker room, I'm talking on the field, that's where we transitioned to a pretty tough ball club that year.
I'll tell you what, there's nothing easy around here.
At 4-2, the 49ers were finally pointed in the right direction. And in Steve Young, they had a leader who could take them where they wanted to go. The flashy new image of the 1994 49ers was epitomized by cornerback Deion Sanders. On the field, the man known as Primetime lived up to his reputation.
Picked off! Sanders up the right side. He's to the 50. He's to the 40. Into the middle of the field. He's high-stepping. He's to the 10. He strolls into the end zone. Deion Sanders, interception, touchdown.
Off the field, he wasn't at all what the 49ers expected.
He's very quiet, doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, just basically really good people. I describe him as the type of person you sit out on the porch and you grab your pitcher of lemonade and you sit out and you talk about life. And that's not the Deion Sanders that most people have an image of, but that's the type of person that he was to the locker room.
Deion did have a pre-game dressing ritual that took some getting used to.
Looks like a chalk line body laying out. And I'm like, what is this? From then forward, I always made sure I had to scooch my little stool chair over just a little bit to make sure Deion had room to lay his socks and his pants out. Hilarious.
In Week 7, the 4-2 49ers were in Atlanta. Deion was facing his former team, the Falcons. And he silenced the fans by making the biggest defensive play of the game.
Backpedaling goes George. And he throws. Intercepted. Is he inbounds? Deion down the right side. Yes, he's to the 50. They can't stop him. He can high step this one half the field. He waits to the 10 though and walks into the end zone. Does another dance. Touchdown 49ers.
zone to say hello to Dion.
Sanders was one of 7 new starters on the San Francisco defense in 1994. The improvement was obvious. The 49ers forced 35 turnovers and returned 5 of them for touchdowns. Adding Sanders helped the 49ers in another way. It allowed Merton Hanks, number 36, to move from cornerback to his natural position of free safety. Hanks had dreams of playing pro football ever since he was a youngster growing up in Dallas. His family lived just down the street from the Cowboys' practice facility.
We had a number of the Cowboys in our neighborhood. Tony Dorsett, Ed Too Tall Jones, Mr. Newhouse, I always called him Mr. Newhouse, Robert Newhouse, lived right on the road that I would have to travel to get to my middle school. So I've got to see a side of them other than them grabbing the Gatorade on Sundays.
The shadow of the Dallas Cowboys followed Merton Hanks to San Francisco. In Week 11, the defending Super Bowl champions had the NFL's best record at 8-1. The 49ers, with their rebuilt defense, were 7-2.
By that time, we had settled ourselves. We had a good bit of confidence rolling. It was a perfect time for us to play the Cowboys.
Troy Aikman had not thrown an interception in 97 attempts coming into the game. But on the Cowboys' first red zone possession, Merton Hanks ended Aikman's streak and the Dallas scoring threat.
The ball is tipped up and intercepted. Hanks at the 5-yard line, tries to come back the other way and is dropped by Darryl Johnston.
Great play by Merton Hanks.
The 49ers' first touchdown came when Jerry Rice beat Larry Brown. The same Larry Brown who just 10 months earlier claimed to own him.
Back to throw is Young, and he sends it way down the left sideline for Rice. Jerry makes the catch. He gets to the end zone. Touchdown, 49ers.
Yeah, Larry Brown really owned Jerry Rice.
In the fourth quarter, Dallas was driving for the tie. But once again, Merton Hanks made the big play.
Pass over the middle. Picked off. Merton Hanks has another interception. And Merton Hanks can run for governor, at least in the Northern California vote, with his game today.
This is a big game. The entire country is watching, and they're getting to see about Merton Hanks what we've known for a long time. This guy can play.
That was just a fun game. Always fun to play against your hometown team. Always fun to come up with plays that frustrate great opponents. And I was just proud to be a part of that.
Hanks gave the ball back to the offense, and the 49ers called a play that had worked for them all day. The bootleg option.
Coming into the huddle, you hear that we're going to go quarterback keep. I get goosebumps just thinking about it because you know if we execute this is going to be a touchdown and it's going to be game over.
Young throws. He gets it to Brett Jones into the end zone. Touchdown, 49ers. Bootleg pass to Brett Jones puts the game away.
It was like, yeah, we got these suckers. And I remember just spiking that ball as hard as I could. And Steve's running around the field dancing. I don't know what he's doing the number 1 sign. I mean, you know the intensity of that game. And it's like, we need to beat these Cowboys. I know Steve Young thought Steve Young needed to beat the Cowboys.
Look at the reaction by Steve Young. He has exorcised some demons here this afternoon. He has got rid of some things on his shoulders.
When you get beat twice in championship game, emotionally you say to yourself, hey, this is not going to go down this way anymore. Over our dead bodies, this is going to happen. And I think that the regular season win, for us emotionally, is a big deal.
Defensively for us, it was put up or shut up. Steve Young's taken so much heat over the last 3 losses, but really it was the defense that let this organization down. And I'm just glad that the defense helped win the day today.
Under offensive coordinator Mike Shanahan, the 1994 49ers scored an average of 31 points a game. Jerry Rice broke Jim Brown's league record of 126 touchdowns.
Young throws downfield. Jerry Rice, he's got it. 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown 49ers. Jerry Rice is the touchdown scorer of the century.
Rice also set a career high with 112 receptions. Brent Jones led all tight ends in touchdowns.
Young after a play fake drops back to throw. Left side, Brent Jones, he should get there. Dive, he tumbles into the end zone. Touchdown 49ers.
Ricky Waters led all running backs in receiving yards. Steve Young set a franchise record with 35 touchdown passes. And his quarterback rating was the highest in NFL history, topping the mark set by Joe Montana. The 49ers won 10 games in a row after the humiliating loss to Philadelphia. Their 13-3 record was the best in the NFC. After the final regular season game, Steve Young delivered what became known as the 39-day speech. He reminded his teammates it was 39 days until the Super Bowl. For the 49ers, the real season was just beginning.
My point was, whatever it takes from this moment on, every minute that you're awake, and even the minutes that you're asleep, make them count, because we have one thing in mind. You know, on the practice field, at night, at home, whatever you do, every minute's going to be about making sure that the Super Bowl happens.
A team that started the 1994 season with so many new faces and new personalities now had one focus and one emotional leader. Steve Young put the 49ers' mission into words. And in the playoff opener against Chicago, his teammates put it into action.
Someone pushed me late, and you had 4 guys just ready to fight. Not like, hey, don't do that, but hey, we're fighting. We're fighting right now.
As a teammate, you just lose your mind. That guy's messing with your Super Bowl ring. And so we went right after him.
And football is, the Mosaic Law. It's eye for an eye. And the way it works in championship form is when it's Mosaic Law now. Right now. We're going to fix this. You can see the reaction of the team. This is our guy. This is where we're going. Get out of our way.
And here are the last 6 possessions of San Francisco. Touchdown, 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 field goal, touchdown, touchdown. And don't mess with the Niners. This is their house.
Information on the championship game.
Thank you.
Go Niners!
Yeah.
51 weeks ago today, for the second year in a row, the Dallas Cowboys had beaten the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game. Thus began a fascinating saga of team rebuilding and restructuring that has the 49ers poised to enter the Super Bowl for the first time since January of 1990. But the obstacle remains the same: the world champion Dallas Cowboys.
If you get beat by the Cowboys in the 3 championship games in a row and 2 of them at home, you might be playing semi-pro bowl next year. I mean, you might have to go home. You might have to, that's it. And I could take all my trophies and all my MVPs and all my passing titles and all that stuff, and you could pack it in a little tiny bag and take it back to Utah. You know what I mean? It really doesn't matter. But if you win a Super Bowl, that little tiny bag that you've been carrying around becomes a Hall of Fame bag.
There are very few times in your life, I believe, that you can honestly say everything that you've ever worked for has come to this moment right here, right now, what are you going to do going forward?
The guys that had experienced the prior 2 losses, I think, felt it more than anybody else on the team. We knew what was at stake. I mean, this was it. And it's interesting to have the perspective of a William Floyd. I mean, his first big NFC championship, or a young guy like Ricky Watters.
Let me see you Tootsie Roll.
The San Francisco 49ers of years past were not dancing in the end zone prior to the NFC championship game. And just looking at those guys and seeing them and seeing the enthusiasm that they had for the game and the feel-good attitude, it made you laugh. It made you, it's like, can you believe those guys? And just that kind of takes the pressure off.
The 49ers spent an entire year waiting for this game, this opponent, and this moment.
Back to throw again is Aikman. Some pressure. Gets the pass away. Eric Davis picks it off. He's got a lane down the left side. 20, 10, 5. Touchdown 49ers.
3 Dallas turnovers led to 3 49ers touchdowns, all in a span of 7 minutes.
Aikman sends it down the left side. Ball is caught and knocked down. That could be a fumble. Yes, it is a fumble. 49ers have the ball again. Young goes back to Ricky the other way. He's all alone at the 20, down to the 10. He's at the 5. He dives. Touchdown 49ers. Williams down near the 30-yard line. Ball is fumbled. I think they've got it again. 49ers have it again.
It was the most remarkable sequence. You saw a team that was so prepared, so focused, and so ready to play just come out and attack the Cowboys.
The Cowboys cut the lead to 10 points, but with just 8 seconds remaining in the first half, Steve Young and Jerry Rice put the game out of reach.
Young goes back to throw, goes for the end zone. Rice is out there. Touchdown 49ers! Rice beat Larry Brown.
That touchdown before half, I think they thought, hey, we'll go in, we're down a little bit, we'll be okay. Boom, 7 more, and it just, I think it sent a message in the locker room at halftime, this is going to be a tough one to come back and win.
30 minutes of football. That was all that separated Steve Young and the 49ers from their goal. A victory over the team that had embarrassed them each of the previous 2 years. Young scored the final touchdown, fighting for the last 3 yards in what had been a long uphill climb.
It was like putting a flag on the top of Everest. Dallas had gone down. And get out of my way. Because I'm running around and I'm saying hello to everybody. The same people that said, Joe is the man and that's never going to change, I think suddenly said, it's all right. Steve can do it and Joe can do it and we're all good because we're from San Francisco and we're 49er fans. It was as if everyone's heart grew enough to circle both of us. And I still remember the moment. It was like I traveled the field and everybody, I think everybody's even yelling it. We're with you. You know, it's like everybody kind of let it go. Early in the year in Philadelphia, my teammates did. Later in the year, I think the fans did. And finally, we were all one.
Hey, bud. You did it. Somebody had to make the call before the game started, so I had it up in my locker, and it's fitting at this point. It's been a long time since we've been in Miami. Feels good.
By the time the 49ers reached Super Bowl 29, the play calling of offensive coordinator Mike Shanahan and the talent of quarterback Steve Young were in perfect harmony.
I'd run through every play, every formation, every motion, every read, and then we just do it. We'd like Rain Man. Like I would just boom, 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 and he would just listen and check. We'd run through 300 plays, and then he'd go, "Okay, you're ready to play." And so I did in the Super Bowl. And he goes, "You know what? One more time." And so we literally, and it was getting late. We had a timing thing, It's like, look, okay, one more time. We went through it. He turned to me, and says, "We're going to kill him."
This is how confident Mike would be. He would say, this is a touchdown play right here. If we get in this situation, we're going to call this will be a touchdown. And darn if those things just didn't happen.
Young with a play fake, drops back to throw, deep middle, Waters a great, over the shoulder catch, bounces away again. Oh, what a bonanza! A spectacular touchdown catch by Ricky Waters, 51-yard touchdown play.
They ran into a buzzsaw that day, and the buzzsaw being a Mike Shanahan-led offense, those quick scores really set the table.
Quick pass to the goal line, Floyd falls in, touchdown 49ers.
I think the look in their eyes was, we can't stop them.
Young, straight back drop, quick pass, left flat, Ricky Waters makes the catch, he's in, touchdown 49ers. Young has got 4 touchdown passes, 4 in the first half. Holy smokes. Back to throw is Young, drills it across the middle, catch by Rice, beats the defender on the play, touchdown 49ers. The 5th touchdown pass of the game by Steve Young, tying in with Joe Montana for the most in Super Bowl history.
Mike Shanahan and I wanted to make a statement about the 49ers. Yeah, we've been to the Super Bowl before, but you've never seen this one before.
Young, quick pass, slant in, Jerry Rice, another touchdown. Steve Young is now number 1 all time with 6 touchdown passes.
Mike Shanahan at the end of the game was upset because it was only 6 touchdown passes because he wanted 8. You want to know why I love that guy? Because he was at 49, not nearly enough.
Young passed for 325 yards. He also finished as the game's leading rusher. He was the best player on the field and the most elated.
I clearly knew the pressure that Steve dealt with, whether it was Joe Montana, whether it was winning a Super Bowl, whether it was beating the Cowboys. But for him to actually publicly acknowledge a monkey on his back was even surprising for me.
Someone take the monkey off my back, please! No, it was a gorilla! It's gone forever!
I was having fun, and everyone was talking about my monkey on my back for so many years. It was like, seemed funny. And I regret it because it sent the wrong message for how I looked at the opportunity that I had. This is a tremendous opportunity, being taught by one of the greatest coaches of all time, one of the greatest players of all time, by a series of players that are going to be Hall of Fame players. You're getting trained to be great. Now go see how good you can get. It actually worked out. I got to see how good I could get. It was a tremendous opportunity, not like, oh, the burden's lifted. And that is what I think that's why I feel the way I do.
The game was won. The mission was complete. The 49ers were once again the champions of professional football. And this time, they made an even bigger splash.
I'm delighted that George Seifert has made it clear to his team, I don't want that goofy Gatorade bath. Don't even think about it.
George, he was very specific about saying, hey, I do not want to be wet. Do not hit me with any water. I don't want this to happen. We made sure it happened anyway.
Uh-oh. George's rule is about to be broken.
It was kind of the last flouting of George's rule set for the year.
Can't get away with a whole lot with these young guys he's got on the team now. The William Floyds and those people. William Floyd and Ricky Waters are down there with him now, you know, saying, hey, come on, it's okay, loosen up.
Super Bowl 29 has come to a completion. The San Francisco 49ers are the first team to win 5 Super Bowl championships.
I remember the elation for all of us of finally completing the journey of winning the World's Championship. You really didn't want to leave the field. I felt like I was a little teeny boppy at a little rock star concert, and I wanted to pick up part of the field and take it with me just to say I was there.
I remember thinking, look around and enjoy the moment and the moments that were going on around you, because you never know if you're going to get back here. And I wanted to remember what it felt like.
That was like the coronation. It was like we were all we did it, and it was Dallas before, and then this was like the next event. Like the battle was won, and now we got the coronation. That's not to make light of the charges. It's just how it played out for us.
For Steve Young, there were no more critics and no more questions. With his performance in Super Bowl 29, he took his place alongside the greatest big game quarterbacks in NFL history.
Wow! Every guy in here made a commitment. You know you did. There were times when it was dark. It was really dark. We turned back into each other's face and committed to each other. You knew we had to do it this way. This is the greatest feeling in the world. Is it not? 39 days! Hey, I share this with every one of you guys. Everyone in this room made a commitment, and we're there. And no one can ever take it away from us, ever!
In the NFL, because so many people focus on the league and the game, especially quarterbacks, no matter what happens, you have 1,000 things on why you're no good and why you can't do it, and everyone lists them. Oh, he can't win the big game. Oh, he can't win the champ. Oh, he can't lead a team in 2 minutes. Oh, he can't. It's like the nature of the game, the cynics win the day most of the time. And so you end up responding to it because it's the nature of who you are as an athlete. You say I can't do it, I'm going to prove you wrong. And I'm going to use that as incentive to actually go achieve something. Yeah, I have inner strength to go to achieve it, but you know what? You're adding me a little bit more salt, all right? I want more because and who are you? Well, it's a guy that wrote something. It's a guy in the street. It's a guy on the radio. It's a guy, it's your Uncle Bill that's been a long-time Cowboy fan. You're sick of hearing from him. It's everybody. They is everyone who kind of loves sports, and sports is about kind of putting challenges out there for things that you can't do. And then you go knock them down. Well, what's the next mountain I'm climbing? What's the next thing you do? And so suddenly you have the Super Bowl trophy in your hand. What are they going to say? What are you going to do? I'm a Super Bowl champion. Just sit down and relax because you're going to take a day off. Tomorrow, there's nothing going to be said. Now, the day after tomorrow, you can say that he can't repeat. He can't, blah, blah, blah. But today, this is it. No more. You know what? I get 24 hours of quiet, and you need to sit down.